Welcome back to Running Up the Score. I'm Kieran.
Run it.
We're
the Fantasy Gods.
We are the Fantasy Gods, and we're going to break down the rest of the games. A couple 1 o'clockers, then to the late window, primetime games. Well, let's just get right into it here. We left talking about one really bad New York team. We will start talking about another bad New York team, the Jets. They host the Titans. The Titans come in as 6-point favorites, over under 45.5. This is a pretty, not exciting game for fantasy output. Besides Derrick Henry, there's really not much with Julio and A.J. Brown out. Even if they were playing, I would be a little lower on them. Obviously, you'd still start them. But in terms of a season outlook, I'm not worried about Ryan Tannehill. But for this game, I'm staying away from Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, and if you don't have a better option, I don't mind starting Tannehill, to be honest. Even though they don't have the receivers, I still think that we've seen this before, actually. I know that A.J. Brown has been out in the past and stuff, and Tannehill has still performed really well with nobodies because his game relies on the play action more than anything else, which might still be there. I think Ryan Tannehill does decent, to be honest. I just don't think he does as well as he normally should be doing. But I definitely think that you pivot away from him if you have a better option for the week. Me personally, I'm starting Derek Carr over him despite a bad matchup for Carr. So that's where I stand on the Titans and Tannehill, and I definitely agree that there's really no one else that I'd be ecstatic about starting apart from Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, he's probably going to be he's the best start in fantasy.
Yeah, and now let's talk about just how bad the Jets are as a team, because I don't think you should start literally a single Jets player.
Yeah. I
whole roster wide.
The only player I would really even roster, there are 2 players on the Jets I would even consider rostering. That would be Corey Davis and Michael Carter. But they're deep stashes, and I'm not playing them this week. Just stay away from the Jets. It's pretty simple.
I honestly wouldn't mind rostering Jamison Crowder either in a deeper league. Not in a shallower league. And 12 team is where I would be on the verge. Anything more than 12, I would definitely roster Jamison Crowder, to be honest, just because Jamison Crowder's that's just me being a little biased. I like Jamison Crowder. I think he's a talented player.
Yeah.
Which is why I would. But definitely not.
I did have him in my 14-teamer last week. He came through in the championship week.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, when you have a quarterback and you see they're playing the Jets, normally you get ecstatic, but the Jets are actually giving up just around, I think, 12 points a game to fantasy quarterbacks, or it's under 15, because of the fact that they're just
so bad.
They're so bad, exactly. So starting quarterbacks against the Jets, you might want to pivot from them, as weird as that sounds. Maybe their secondary will get, maybe teams will throw more against them as the season goes on. Maybe the Jets will get a little bit better as the season moves on. But right now, it's not a smash dunk start if you're playing the Jets, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And honestly, I think we can move on from this game.
We can. Let's pivot over to another unfortunate thing, which has to do with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles, which is Miles Sanders. Let's talk about him for a second. That's probably the biggest component of this game, because the Chiefs, you know who you're starting. You're starting almost everyone you can. Maybe Clyde is a bit of a wild card that I think we disagree on a bit.
Yeah, I'm still playing Clyde as an RB2. He's starting running back on the best offense in football. And he did have 16 points. He did fumble last week, but I think we do disagree on Clyde. I'm still a little higher on him than you are. I just don't think you're going to have many better options. But let's pivot back to Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, I am flexing him this week. I don't think I do think you're gonna see a bounce back game from him, and I think if they're down and they're gonna have to throw a lot, that you'll see him get targets. He did only have the 2 carries last week, only had 5 touches, but as you said, he turned that into 8 points.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. 5 touches into 8 points is ridiculous, and that is exactly what's so frustrating about Miles Sanders this season. It's that, like, sometimes you can hate on the players, like, damn, I hate this guy, like, he's so annoying, he's, like, he's not playing as well as he should be, or something. It's not that with Miles Sanders, like, you can't hate on him, like, wow, like, what a player, he's just, like, making so much out of his opportunities and shit, but, like, he's doing so well, and yet, there's just not the volume to support it, like, and he's not getting targeted in the receiving game as much, which is why, personally, I know Sanders we disagree on as well. I'm a little hesitant on Sanders this week. Like, he turned the 5 touches into 8 points last week, but he had 3 receptions, which is, like, not a given for Sanders this season. Like, week 2, he only had 1. And the way they're using Gainwell, I just don't know that Sanders is going to have that bounce back this week if they're trailing big, and they probably will be. Like, I don't know. It's frustrating, but I can very well see a scenario where Sanders ends with, like, 6 or 7 rushes. I think he will have more rushes than 2, but I can see a scenario where he has more rushes, but that he also has less receptions than last week because they trail so big early that they just move on to Gainwell.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening. I think, though, that they're going to look, and personally, I think the Eagles coaching staff is going to say, we need to get Miles Sanders the ball more here. We need to establish the run more in general. So I think that Sanders, again, though, like, there is a league I'm still considering benching Sanders, even in a 12-team league for Cole Beasley. Like, so I'm not saying, like, I'm not blaming you for being nervous about Miles Sanders. I think that his usage, though, in the first 2 weeks is going to be a bit more indicative. You know, he was still getting solid volume those first 2 games. I think you can not necessarily throw out that game, but I'm a little less concerned about Miles Sanders. In terms of the Eagles receivers, I'm firing up Devontae Smith. I'm playing Dallas Goddard if I have him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch any other Eagles receiver, but I think you're a little higher on them.
Yeah, I'm not higher on them overall. For this specific game, I would not fault you for starting, like, anyone on the receiving corps personally, because, like, I just anticipate that, like, Jalen Hurts is going to have to, like, stray so much from his normal rushing outputs of, like, he usually rushes, 10 plus times a game, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to have to stray from that, because I think they're going to be down so big as opposed to last week where it was still, like, somewhat competitive for like, a decent amount of the game. Like, I just think that, like, the Chiefs are going to, like, run up the score to a point that, like, Jalen is going to have to, like, start airing it out and not just, like, looking to scramble. And just from that volume alone, I just think that each Eagles wide receiver has the potential to just go off. And I'm not saying to start them. I'm just saying that I think that they're all reasonable flyers for the week.
Yeah. Taking a flyer on an Eagles receiver, that's what you're saying to do. The over-under for this game, by the way, 54.5. So it is expected to be a high-scoring game. Kansas City is a 6.5-point favorite. Personally, I'm hammering the Chiefs. I think they're going to blow out the Eagles. They're 1-2. They've heard the talk about, how maybe the Chiefs have been figured out. And listen, like, I don't think they have been. I'm not worried about the Chiefs. Some people
me neither.
are.
I think they just have a slow start going.
That's, it happens. They're not. Every year that they have Patrick Mahomes, like, the Patriots would start out slow sometimes when they were in their dynasty. And people would be freaking out, and then they would turn it around. It's going to happen to the Chiefs. And the Chargers have kind of had the Chiefs number, but this isn't a gambling podcast, so we're not going to talk about that as much.
Arizona, LA?
Let's go to Arizona, LA. Arizona, LA. This is a really interesting game. Just, this NFC West matchup. Seeing if the Cardinals if they can keep up with the Rams. Now I'm going to let you take it away on the Cardinals receivers because you have a bold prediction for this.
Oh yeah, I do. And we'll get to that later.
Okay.
But like just to start out on the Arizona receivers, I mean, they have Rondale Moore as like their fourth wide receiver. That's crazy. Like the talent is immense on this receiving core for like someone as electrifying as like Moore has been so far in his rookie season to be your wide receiver 4. And I think that this is going to be a key difference maker between this year's matchup between the Cardinals and Rams and previous matchups, because previous years the Rams have really had Kyler's number. Like Kyler has not been able to do much, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because his weapons were Hopkins, who is shadowed by Jalen Ramsey the whole game. And then after that, he's left with Christian Kirk, who's really solid.
Yes.
But then Larry Fitzgerald, who, like, obviously Larry's, like, all-time great, but, like, probably at, like, the worst point in his career. You know, he's, like, slow, he can't do what he used to be able to do against, like, the defenders that he's going up against.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, to go from that to this year, he still has Kirk in the same role as before. And Kirk is playing better than he did in previous seasons as well. Yeah. And then on top of that, AJ Green is out there as the wide receiver 2, who Larry Fitzgerald is a better receiver than AJ Green, but AJ Green at this point in his career, I would definitely rank ahead of Larry Fitzgerald at age 37 or something.
Yeah, something crazy.
So there's that difference maker. And then on top of that, they have Rondale Moore. And what I expect from this game is that it's really going to come down to the secondary receivers, which is why I think the addition of Rondale Moore and AJ Green in this situation is going to be so big. And I think that this is going to be a bit of a shootout. I think that Kyler is going to be able to put up points this time around. And I think that Stafford on the Rams is going to be huge, obviously. That's always going to be huge in any matchup, because Stafford is just such a big upgrade from Goff. I think that this is going to be a really high-scoring game. And I think that you want any piece of this game that you can get.
Yeah. Well, do you want any piece you can get? Where are you with the Rams? Do you want Robert Woods?
Never mind. You don't. I don't want Robert Woods personally. I think he's gonna have good games. I think this could be a good game, to be honest. I feel the same way about Robert Woods this game as I do about the Eagles wide receivers apart from Smith. I think that you can take a flyer on him because I anticipate such a high-scoring game. I think that Robert Woods will have good games, but I think those good games will not be based on any statistical analysis and will just kind of happen. And you won't be able to predict it, which is why I don't really like starting Robert Woods any game this season for the most part, unless he just clearly is on some hot streak.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna need to see it from Robert Woods at this point, but he's still got the talent. I do think comparing him to the Eagles receivers is a bit. He is saying a flyer on Robert Woods. At the end of the day, he is still a top tier receiver in this league. And I think that, the talent, eventually, Stafford's going to see him, right? He can't keep carrying Cooper Kupp the way he has been. I don't think so. I think, but this game, I'm going to stay away from Robert Woods because I need to see it. I need to see that Stafford sees him, but I think eventually he's going to, regain a bit of his old role in the offense. I can't see Robert Woods continuing this low of an output, but I would agree that stay away from Robert Woods. Don't drop Robert Woods.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Don't drop him.
And again, I do think that he puts up numbers that he has in the past. It's possible that he gains a hot streak. I think it's more likely that it's just a random game thing. It sounds like you think it's more likely that it will become a consistent hot streak type thing. Right?
Maybe a consistent hot streak. I think his floor is gonna come back to where it has been.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Eventually, but if you're off to a rough start because you've been starting Robert Woods, you don't have time for that. Any of the running backs, if Darrell Henderson is back, I'm starting him. If Sony Michel is, if Henderson is out and it's Sony Michel, I'm firing up Sony Michel as a locked and loaded RB2.
Me too.
So I want the Rams backfield in this game.
I agree. Cardinals backfield on the other hand, I'm starting Chase Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you on James Conner? Because I don't think I'm starting him if I have a better option. Like, I'm looking for alternatives. He had the two touchdowns
Conner
last
is touchdown dependent.
Yeah.
And
I don't think he's necessarily going to get it this week.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to stay away from James Conner in general. I still don't have the taste of last year out of my mouth with James Conner, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Rams come into this game as 4-point home favorites over under 54.5. So again, Vegas is anticipating a shootout there. I'm trying to think if there's anything. Higbee.
I was about to say that. Yeah. Literally, I think you start Higbee personally.
Yeah, Higbee. I would agree. Higbee is a viable start for this game, for sure at tight end. All right. Is there anything?
Wait, what do you think of Deshaun Jackson?
D-Jax, I'd say in a league where you have bonuses for big touchdowns, go Deshaun Jackson. Otherwise, I mean, he's boom or bust, and you know that. If you really need a boom, like let's say your opponent had somehow started like James Robinson and Tyler Boyd against you, or something like that, and you're already down big going into Sunday.
Yeah.
Or like, for instance, in the 1 o'clock games, you're down big.
Yeah, let's say you play Derrick Henry.
Yeah, let's say if you're going against Derrick Henry, then maybe flex D-Jax. Because a long touchdown could go a long way. And Matthew Stafford, like he's got a cannon. Obviously, fire up Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray. Fire up the quarterbacks in this one.
Yeah, for sure.
But I had something else to say. But yeah, you think we can move on to...
Yeah, I think we can move on.
Okay, so the other NFC West matchup is one of the fiercest rivalries in the NFL in recent memory. Seattle and San Francisco, they're firing it up. I'm hyped for both these NFC West games. Actually, just quick little NFL talk. I'm really excited because NFC West is the best division in football. Yeah. I'm really excited for both those teams to be in action at the same time. So the San Francisco 2.5-point favorites, over under 51.5. Tyler Lockett is questionable. But
seems like he'll play.
He'll probably play. I'm not worried about Tyler Lockett.
Yeah.
You're firing him up. And Chris Carson, you're firing him up. Russell Wilson, you're firing him up. DK, you're firing him up.
I think you're firing up the Seattle offense as usual. But I do also think that you go into it with with in mind just the potential for a letdown on offense. I think Seahawks 49ers games, this stuff can be tough. Seattle tends to struggle sometimes in these divisional games. Like you said, the NFC West is just such a tough division to go against. I think DK does really well here. Well, honestly, I think I'm not gonna make any predictions on specific players because I just don't think that. I think it's another situation where it's just kind of random games DK will go off, random games Tyler will go off. But I do slightly expect DK to get more here because Tyler is battling this injury.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now we can bring this guy up a little later when talking about. But if you have a tight end that's out, say you have Gronk and you are starting him, Gerald Everett's out for Seattle, which means a name that hasn't been brought up in fantasy in a little bit, Will Disley.
Will Disley, yeah. He is. I definitely think he's a option to start. Especially let's say you have Gronk. He's out this week.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Will Disley, good pickup potentially. Seattle, San Francisco. This has the potential to be at that point, the tight end is such a shallow position that like you're kind of going off like potential. You can't like there's not really a good low floor or high floor option. Most likely if you have an injured tight end or something like that, or your tight end's just not performing well right now. To the point that like you kind of just have to go off potential. Yeah. And like Seattle and San Francisco like has the potential to be a very high scoring game because of how good the teams are. Also has the chance of being very, very low scoring because of the defense. But at that point, like I think you kind of got to take a flyer on some tight end anyways. So I think Will Dissly would be a good option there.
Also, if it looks like Kittle is probably going to play, but even if you have Kittle and he doesn't play, I'd pick Dissly.
True.
Where are you on George Kittle? I mean, he has not been producing, and you needed, like, if you spent a high draft pick on George Kittle, you're really, really hurting because that's a tight end spot that you didn't pick you didn't pick a better wide receiver too. You didn't pick a better running back too because you put on George Kittle. So how much patience do you have with George Kittle right now?
I know we disagree. I wouldn't mind benching him if you have a better option. I just don't think most George Kittle owners do because you drafted George Kittle with the understanding of like with the assumption of like George Kittle is going to be top tight end. I don't need a tight end after George Kittle. If you did draft another tight end just to be safe or something that's doing really well, I wouldn't mind you benching Kittle for in the meantime until he hopefully like starts to pick up and stuff and gets back to what he was doing before. But I definitely think that you want to be looking for backup options, and that's something I know we both agree on.
I certainly you're looking for backup options right now with Kittle. You might need to temper your expectations a little bit, but eventually, to me, his talent has to shine through, right? And he was looking in that Green Bay game. He definitely got. I think he got an end zone target, or he was getting some more looks. He seemed more involved in the offense. But Kittle, I'm still going to start George Kittle just because, I'm a more guy that start your studs, and I think Kittle is still a stud. But he needs, if he puts up another dud, then definitely I'd be open to benching him because this is 4 weeks into the season. And fantasy owners, you need to approach the season 1 week at a time almost. Every week is kind of like a mini season. To get to the playoffs. And you're looking to do whatever it takes to win this week. So if you do want to take a flyer on, okay, I'll ask you, the tight ends we've talked about previously in this episode, Higbee, Higbee or Goddard, would you consider playing any of those guys over Kittle?
Goddard, yes.
Okay.
Higbee probably not because he has a pretty low floor as well. But Goddard against the Chiefs, I just don't see him not doing at least pretty well.
Yeah, with the 49ers quarterback situation, it is certainly a little nerve-wracking. And then 49ers backfield,
I'm staying away. I always say this, I'm staying away.
Stay away from the backfield until Jared, I can't remember his name, Jedrick Willis.
Cedric, wait.
No, Jeff Wilson, the Jeff Wilson Jr. Until he comes back, I would roster Jeff Wilson Jr. I think that he's going to kind of take over the backfield, but
I honestly don't think so. I disagree. I think I'm just out on 49ers running backs period, and I have been for over a year now. That's what always ends up being said. It's Jeff Wilson, because he'll have these 20-point games, and it's he's the guy. But then out of nowhere, he'll be healthy, and other 49ers running backs are just getting most of the touches.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre how they run that offense. And
you've talked me out of it. I actually really I think it's better in general. But if you do have Jeff Wilson and say he goes for 20 points games, I'm instantly pouncing on that trade. I'm trying to sell high. If you say if you have Jeff Wilson on your roster Keep him on the IR. If he comes back and has a 20-point game, sell high on him. But
100%. Yeah.
I think we can. Debo starting Ayuk. Ayuk has been probably one of, if not the biggest fantasy disappointment so far this season.
I think you can start him this week, though. To be honest,
you're still
I think the 49ers are. No, I was out on Ayuk going into the season. I wasn't even high on him. But for the particular matchup, like, the 49ers are not going to be able to keep doing what they've been doing against the Seahawks, most likely. Like, they're probably going to have to put up some points, and with the volume, I would assume that Ayuk is at least a flex play.
Yeah.
We'll see. Debo's definitely by far the stronger start. And personally, I think Debo's more talented too, but I'm also biased because my cousin's dog is named Debo, so.
There we go. And then, yep. All right. So let's go to Baltimore and Denver. This is Denver is a 1-point home underdog. Baltimore.
Wait. Holy water.
All right. So this is a segment we're gonna do. Here we go. Give me the blood of Christ. All right. So, holy water. We're gonna make fantasy gods are gonna make some bold predictions this week and every week. So I hinted at it before. You've got some predictions about the Arizona wide receivers.
Yeah, I really think it comes down to the secondary wide receivers in that game, and I think that Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore are just so talented. I think that they are going to show out for that game. I know, obviously D-Hop is the wide receiver 1 and everyone goes crazy, but and AJ Green has the name still, but I think that Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk end this game as the 2 best wide receiver options on the Cardinals for the week.
All right. So my prediction is for a game we haven't discussed yet. It's the Sunday night game. I actually kind of have 2, to be honest. This isn't one. I think Antonio Brown catches a touchdown. He has a good game, so I'll take a sip for that. But we didn't even discuss this one. I kind of thought of this one on the fly.
Okay.
Listen, Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is going to have 20 fantasy points. Him and AB are going to be the 2 leading receivers in that game for fantasy. And listen, Jacoby Myers had 12 targets, 16, some crazy amount of targets last week. He's never caught a touchdown before, and you might be thinking, well, the Bucs have an amazing defense. The Bucs have an amazing run defense. The Bucs do not have an amazing secondary. Okay, you talk to any Bucs fan, they'll tell you that. Jacoby Myers, he's due. I mean, the amount of touches he's received without a touchdown, I'm fully firing him up. I think he cooks the Bucs secondary this week. So,
okay.
Jacoby Myers and AB, 2 people you need to start from that game. So that kind of takes care of the Sunday. We can discuss that game more extensively. But that was holy water. Those are our bold predictions. We'll see. We'll keep track of how we do. And keep in mind, they're going to be bold, right? So we're not ever going to be start Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Water prediction.
Of course.
Not everyone is going to boom, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how these play out.
Baltimore and Denver. So Ari's already said. Denver, 1-point underdog to Baltimore. Over-under is 44.5. Both of these backfields are pretty congested, though no backfield is as congested as Baltimore's because you have Lamar there. Let's start with them. Besides, the RB1 being Lamar, are you playing Tyson Williams? Are you completely out on him? Where are you there?
I'm not out on them yet. I'm not out completely. I am 100% out on starting them until I see something. I think they're reasonable stashes because you never know. Like, the thing that's holding them, like all the Ravens running backs back, is not ability. Even Latavius Murray, very talented running back. Yeah. I love Murray even as someone who's like, I'm a huge Alvin Kamara fan. I know we haven't mentioned that before, but huge fan of Kamara. I had to watch as like Latavius Murray like took a bunch from him some games and all. But like even with that, he's so fun to watch. I love Latavius Murray. Yeah. And he's so talented. Even he has the potential to just like do so well on that offense. They're just not getting the touches. Yeah. Not enough to support good fantasy outputs. And the thing is that if that backfield gets cut down at all, if any of those Ravens running backs start missing games or something, I think that they're going to they have the possibility of doing really well. You still have to worry about Lamar Jackson taking rushing yards from them, but they just have enough potential to like be started that I think you want to have like either Murray or Tyson on your bench, but they're nothing more than that to me. Just bench.
I pretty much agree. Like, I think that it's like any part of the Ravens backfield is too valuable to cut. Mm-hmm. But I would say don't start them until there's an established hierarchy, because Tyson Williams just did not get it done last week. I think he's the most explosive back. I personally think Baltimore should be leaning on him a little more, but they're not, and they brought in enough running backs too where it's very clear there's not going to be a real workhorse there. So
but the only thing I will say is like I think Tyson is the most explosive back, but something that a lot of people don't notice a lot, I think, is that like Latavius Murray is actually really good in the receiving game. Mm-hmm. Like people like mark him down and like categorize him as like, oh, Latavius Murray. They look at how he's built and they're like, oh, power back. Like he has no receiving value. That's literally the complete opposite of the case. Like, even think back to like when Kamara got injured for those games a few seasons back and stuff, and Latavius Murray was like huge in the receiving game. Like, I think that either one of them like could easily do really well if they just end up as like the lead back at some point in this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like one of them, either one of them could do well if they end up with the lead back. Yeah. Question is, will they?
Or, I don't think they will unless there's injury. Which you can't count on injury. So
yeah, exactly.
Like, actually, let me just say this too. I would not say like you can't cut one of them. Like, if you really see a free agent target or something like you really think is gonna actually like end up starting, then like sure, cut him. Like, but
would you cut? I mean, I guess like at this point he's already been picked up. Mm-hmm. But like, say, would you cut Tyson Williams or Latavius Murray going into the week for Chuba?
For Chuba, 100%.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to say, like, Chuba, you got to fire up. But let's stick with running backs. Let's go back to Denver, since I don't think any Baltimore receiver, maybe Hollywood Brown, but I'm kind of staying away from the Baltimore receivers.
Yeah, it's weird, because, like, Hollywood Brown, like, you know very well what you can miss out on, because, like, if he just, like, has a game where he catches everything, then all of a sudden, like, he could be putting up, like, 30 points, and you're missing out on that. Yeah. But the problem is, like, he rarely does catch everything. Yeah. In fact, he drops so many passes that, like, all of a sudden you're left with so much off.
He almost cost them the game.
Yeah.
Against the Lions, and that's got to be in. I mean, I know, you got to have confidence in your receivers, and Lamar's going to go back to him, but I don't know, man. I mean, he really, really looked bad, and I think he's kind of shaken up out there, to be honest. So yeah, I'm going to stay away from Baltimore receivers. Denver's backfield.
Wait, Mark Andrews, what do you think?
Oh, Mark Andrews, start Mark Andrews.
Exactly.
Yeah, start Mark Andrews. Yeah, he's locked and loaded. He's a set it and forget it, regardless of matchup. Denver, Coming in, this is we're gonna see if Denver's for real. I personally think they are. I think a lot of people hating on Denver because of their lack of tough teams, but they've blown out those tough teams. So I know I'm high on Denver, but anyway,
I'm not so high on Denver, but I'm also not low. I'm in the middle right now.
Another bold prediction of mine for the NFL. I think Denver's a better team than Oakland, but we will. This is not again what this podcast is about. So with Judy out, where are you on the rest of the Denver offense? Let's start with the running backs. Are you starting Melvin Gordon or Williams this week?
I am okay with starting either.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you leave them on the bench because the chances there's plenty of people out there that don't have deep enough rosters that they can get a better replacement than one of them. But if your roster is deep enough, then 100% I'm leaving both of them on the bench, to be honest. The Ravens are a really good defense, and maybe you're swayed by DeAndre Swift just blew them up. It's DeAndre Swift. He's been doing this since his rookie year, just destroying great defenses. Javonte Williams, maybe he's like that. I'm not gonna say he's not like that, but he's not getting the volume that you need to securely say that. Let's confidently start him and be he can dice up this good defense. And Melvin Gordon, the thing about Gordon is all too often you see, and this is even honestly when Gordon was in his prime and stuff, there would be so many games where he just doesn't have a good game, but then he just breaks away for some super long touchdown.
Yeah, he did that against the Giants earlier.
Yeah, he did that in the Giants week 1. Even during his prime, I remember there was one game when he got a 99-yard touchdown, but then barely did that much for the rest of the game. He does that a lot, and I just don't see him breaking away for a big touchdown this game.
Yeah.
I think you just try to leave them on the bench.
Yeah, Javonte Williams would be somebody who you could potentially buy low on.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think he will take over the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
I think that after the bye week, let me look up quick when Denver's bye week is. But after Denver's bye week, I'd say that's usually when if they.
I think it's actually pretty late this season, very late.
It is week 11, so yeah.
That's the only reason why I wouldn't necessarily trade for him. But if you have I actually traded for him in one of my leagues. If you have a deep enough roster that you're looking at your roster and you're I don't need this roster spot for 11 weeks. I can take this flyer to try to get some star that will help me in playoffs and stuff. That's what I did in one of my leagues. I just traded for Javonte Williams, and I don't need him starting because I have great running backs elsewhere. So,
yeah, and then even though Marlon Humphrey is a tough corner matchup, I still think Sutton is somebody you can play.
Yeah, I think you play him.
Because he's not going to get... Jalen Ramsey is pretty much the only corner that really, really shadows your best receiver. They can find ways to get Sutton on somebody else. And also, we are both incredibly high on Tim Patrick.
Yeah. And he's always underrated. He's very much like Cole Beasley and Jarvis Landry. He's always outperforming. I always see him just left on waivers for the longest time, and sometimes I don't pick him up, not because I'm not high on him, but just because there's no one I really want to drop. But
yeah, that's the thing. But now it's looking like you need to make room on your roster for him, find a way, almost.
Yeah.
Because Patrick is, he's such a high floor play, and this week, we both like Tim Patrick. So if you need a wide receiver flyer and Tim Patrick's out there, pounce on him immediately.
Yeah, my holy water prediction was almost going to be that Tim Patrick is the best offensive player on the Broncos this week. I didn't do that, but that was almost it.
That would not surprise me either at all.
Yeah,
it would not surprise me if he went 9 for 90 or something like that.
Yeah,
in this game. Some stat line like that. Okay, I think we can. Noah Fant to start both the tight ends in this game. are very fantasy relevant.
Yeah,
Noah Fant is coming in, especially with Judy out. He's gonna need to throw to Fant. And Bridgewater is a guy who will rely on his tight ends for those dump off passes too. So Bridgewater, we were talking about this before the show started. Bridgewater, I think, takes a little bit away from Sutton, and Tim Patrick and Noah Fant gain a bit from Drew Lock to Teddy Bridgewater, because Bridgewater is a much more conservative quarterback. He's a much better quarterback. Yeah. The Broncos obviously made the right call. I mean, they're 3-0, but Drew Lock would throw some jump balls. He would ho-chuck it to Courtland Sutton, and Teddy doesn't do it as much.
Yeah.
But so that's why I don't think it's a bad prediction at all that Tim Patrick would be the highest player on the offense. But also, I think Noah Fant is a very good start.
Yeah. This one. And before we move on, real quick, speaking of Teddy Bridgewater, do you think that Teddy Bridgewater is a streamer in this matchup with them potentially having a shootout with the Ravens?
I don't see a shootout. I just think Teddy, he's a game manager.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stay away from Bridgewater. What do you think?
I'm not gonna say stay away from Bridgewater, or stream Bridgewater, but if you're in a deeper league. If your quarterback situation seems desperate and you really need a streamer, I would not mind Bridgewater because the Ravens' rush defense is so good. I don't really see a rushing touchdown happening this game.
Okay.
And I do see the Broncos putting up at least 3 touchdowns or something. So that could very well be 3+ touchdowns for Bridgewater.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could see that happening. I think in terms of yardage, you're not going to get... He'd be a touchdown-dependent quarterback. He's not going to go out and throw for 350 yards.
Yeah, that's true.
And now we can move on to Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Green Bay, 6-point home favorites, over under 45.5.
Yeah.
So... obviously, Rodgers, you're starting. You're going to start Devontae.
Aaron Jones, goes without saying. Oh, yeah, and that's another thing. Pittsburgh defense, not quite what it has been in the past. And, still a great rush defense. But, I don't think that you're really, looking at players, especially if they're a star, and being I'm worried about Aaron Jones' output or something, or Devontae Adams. I think you're starting these guys with confidence. I think that even when you look at what Tyler Boyd did last week to the Steelers and Jamar Chase, people are getting through on that defense this season.
Yeah, for sure.
Even Mixon had a good game against the Steelers.
Yeah.
No touchdown, but he had a solid output. I think he had no touchdown, right?
I don't think he did. But yeah, you need to, reevaluate the Pittsburgh defense.
Apart from Devontae and Jones and Rodgers, are you starting anyone from that Packers offense? Because I don't think I am. Maybe Tunyon, but I don't.
Tunyon, I feel like he probably the point of Tunyon is if Aaron Rodgers throws 3 touchdowns, you hope he gets 1, right? I don't think Tunyon is a terrible weekly play at tight end, even to be honest. So I think if you've been starting Tunyon, there's no reason to pivot away from him necessarily. But I'm not looking to start him.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
But I'm also not, like I said, I could definitely see him going for a touchdown. MVS is just too inconsistent.
Yeah, agreed.
To invest a lot of time into, but he could catch a long touchdown. It's not before it would be I'm not starting MVS even if he was on a hot streak against Pittsburgh. That's what I would have said last year. This year I just haven't really seen much from him. On Pittsburgh's side of the ball, Najee Harris, 14 targets?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. With Claypool out, you are very high on starting Deontay Johnson.
100%. And also, you just said 14 targets and all, but, Deontay is out. Big Ben, well, I didn't have his favorite target. I'm very high on Najee. Don't get me wrong. I think that Najee is great, but you also do have to acknowledge, in my opinion, that Najee in the ground game has not been great this season. Last game he did crazy because of his receiving output, and I do think that the receiving output was like a direct correlation with Big Ben losing his favorite target in Deontay Johnson. I think if Deontay Johnson is there, which he is this game, I think that Najee's like receptions and receiving output comes crashing down to earth, and like he has not been much on the ground with that O-line. So like I'm still very high on him. You start him obviously every week. There's not even like a thought about that. But I definitely would not take like 14 targets as like a norm, or like even 10 targets as a norm.
No, obviously.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But 5 targets, that could be the norm.
Yeah, I think 5 to 7 is probably the norm for Najee, and that should be enough to support him. But like the ground game situation is still a little concerning to me.
Okay. Yeah, I would play Deontay as just Big Ben, man. Big Ben scares me. Like, he's one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now, as painful as that is to say.
He is.
As somebody that, grew up as kind of like the Steelers were, somebody that has family in Pittsburgh and always liked the Steelers, but it's tough to see Big Ben play the way he is.
Someone from Plattsburgh.
Yes, exactly. The bird connection.
Yeah.
But... it just is what it is right now, and it's kind of like Eli was at the end of his career.
Yeah, but I don't think that has much of an impact on Deontay personally. Like, you see what Deontay puts up in terms of numbers and stuff, and like it doesn't seem to impact him too much that Big Ben is struggling. Like, especially the way that the Steelers use Deontay.
Is Juju playing in this game?
Yeah, he is. I'm pretty sure.
Are you considering Juju? I just don't know if this offense could support 2 receivers, especially when you're considering Najee.
Honestly, I'm not even going to talk about Juju because I don't want to give off the wrong impression. And, like, I'm, like, so biased when it comes to Juju because I just, like, don't like Juju. Like, especially with his, like, TikToks and the media attention. So I'm just going to abstain from that one because I don't want to feed, like, misinformation just based on my biases.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't really have a problem with Juju's TikTok, so But I just don't know if, like Deontay is Big Ben's favorite target. He's going to feed Najee. I just don't know if the Steelers' offense can support that many fantasy people right now. And
that's fair.
Juju in a PPR league, maybe, but I'm nervous about it. Like, I am looking to pivot from Juju. And only in a 12 to 14 team league am I considering flexing Juju.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair.
And it has to be PPR. So let's go on to the game that everyone is talking about. The only game, really, from this week. That's not true, but the game that everyone is talking about. Tom Brady comes back to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots and his old
Shockingly, without Gronk.
Shockingly, without Gronk. I was down for, like, Gronk was going to go for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I thought Gronk was going to have a massive game. And, now the reports are saying that Gronk might be out multiple weeks, dude.
Yeah, and so if you're a Gronk owner, you may be looking for a pivot play at tight end. We mentioned earlier Walt Disney. If you want to go to Disneyland, you can pick up Walt Disney. And then also Tyler Conklin from the Minnesota Vikings has been consistently involved in that offense. He would be somebody, too, that I could very much see in play.
Wait, how many weeks is Everett out for? Do we know?
Everett, he's definitely out this week.
Okay.
He might be out more. Let's see. He got placed on the COVID reserve list.
Okay, so then there's a good chance he's only out 1 week. Like,
he tested positive for COVID.
Okay, yeah. So then I would definitely lean towards the other options then, since the Gronk might be out multiple weeks. Like, you want to try to get something more long-term, like like we've mentioned Conklin, or again, like if you want to go with like Brait or OJ Howard or something, those are also good plays. Like then you know that you have a tight end until Gronk gets back too.
Yeah.
So any of those I think are good plays.
Yeah. Also, if you do have very much depth at one position, you could try to swing a trade for a tight end as well.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
that depends obviously on your team. So let's dive into this game. We with my holy water prediction, I already said how I feel about Myers, and we are both incredibly high on AB.
Yeah.
So
personally, I'm not quite as high on Myers because I do agree like the Bucks secondary is definitely by far their weakest point, but my problem is that Jacoby Myers runs more like short intermediate routes. In my opinion, we'll see how it plays out Sunday night, but I think that if anyone's going to exploit that secondary, it would be Aguilar, not Myers, because he's more of the deep threat. Whereas Myers, he's still going to be matched up against the cornerbacks, and they have some pretty good corners, like Carlton Davis. Like
they started Sherman too.
He's a little inconsistent, but like when he's on, I mean, like he's beaten Michael Thomas multiple times. Like he destroyed Michael Thomas. Like,
yeah.
So if he's on Jacoby Myers and Jacoby Myers isn't really running that deep into the secondary, then I personally feel like there's an opportunity for a letdown there. But we'll see how it plays out.
We'll see how it plays out. Tampa Bay comes in as 7-point favorites in this game, over under 49.5. What do you think of, so obviously you're starting Brady.
Yeah.
You're starting Brady. We're staying away from the Bucks backfield. Staying away from that.
Staying away from both backfields for sure.
Yeah,
Bucks, Patriots.
If I had to pick one as a desperation play, I'd probably go Damian Harris just because he has more of a grip on the backfield, but I'm still not playing any of them.
Yeah, especially with the matchup. I'm very out on Damian Harris for this week.
For this week, don't just completely stay away because teams just don't run on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Teams aren't even really trying to. Like it's just it's not going to happen.
And going beyond this game, speaking of like the Patriots backfield, like James White is out. Who do you think for the James White owner? You have anyone in mind that they can pick up to sub in for?
In deeper leagues, Michael Carter is somebody who's available in a good amount of leagues. A lot of people have been frustrated with him. He seems to have a pretty good grip in the Jets backfield. So I could see Michael Carter. Some of the guys like if Darrell Henderson gets ruled out, pick up Sonny Michel right away.
Oh, 100%. That would be a plug it in immediately unless you have some like stellar running back depth.
Yeah, and then a backup to keep an eye on, like Kenneth Blackwell or the Philly Blackwell.
Kenneth Gainwell.
Gainwell, my bad.
Yeah,
Kenneth Gainwell in a deeper league is somebody you could pick up. Maybe even like maybe James Conner's out there. There are definitely some options, but the James White loss hurts. He was really looking like he does every year.
Exactly. He was looking like he was going to keep fantasy teams with like a very consistent floor.
Yes.
Looking like a good play. Now, what do you think of picking up Kyle Juszczyk?
I'd have to lean away from picking up Kyle.
Bro, you don't have to finish answering, bro. Literally, that was a rhetorical question.
Okay.
In my league, I kid you not, $200 buy-in league. Listen, folks. Literally $200 buy-in league, and my opponent this week lost James White, had no other running backs rostered. This is why you want to diversify the depth on your roster, not just focus on any one position.
Yeah, don't do the punt shot. Don't punt on any position, but yeah.
No running backs rostered. Picks up Kyle Juszczyk, a fullback. Like
the most touchdown-dependent play in the history of touchdown-dependent plays.
For real.
Right there. Watch Kyle Juszczyk go for 3. But
I swear.
Anything else we've got?
Oh, I mean Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, of course, great plays. I think I'm very high on AB. We both are. I'm also equally high on Chris Godwin this game. I'm a little lower on Mike Evans. We'll see. I mean, I think that he has the potential to be like the highest, because he has the most touchdown upside in the offense.
Yeah.
But I also think he has by far the he probably has a slightly higher floor than AB, but I'm not sure about the matchup with this one. Patriots are good against wide receivers. Like, I feel like Mike Evans might be getting a lot of the attention.
Okay. With that, we can move on to the Monday night game.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Okay. Monday night game, the Chargers and Vegas at AFC West matchup to close out the week. Austin Eckler, obvious start.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Waller, come on now, you're starting him. The running back situation in Oakland is one we're both saying to stay away from.
Yeah.
I would pivot if I was playing Josh Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
Only because, not only because Jacobs has been a little disappointing, but also, like, it's too risky for me to wait for the Monday night game. You have to have a pivot plan.
Yeah.
There, and if it was like Austin Eckler, I would still plug it in and just risk it. But not with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs does not have the ceiling.
I mean, I'd consider benching Josh Jacobs even if he was declared active already. So for him to be questionable in a Monday night game on top of that, I think I don't think anyone should be plugging him in unless your only alternative is Kyle Juszczyk, of course. Then slam the button on Josh Jacobs, plug him in.
You push Peyton Barber over him. Peyton Barber is not going away. Unfortunately, John Gruden really, really loves Peyton Barber. And despite the fact that, again, we talked about this, but they paid Kenyon Drake $11 million and they just didn't use him when Josh Jacobs was out. And Gruden loves Peyton Barber, so even when Josh Jacobs is back fully healthy, Peyton Barber is not going to go away, unfortunately for Jacobs owners. Keenan Allen you're playing, Mike Evans you're playing. Has Mike Evans become the better fantasy option?
Oh, Mike Williams, yeah.
Oh, my bad. Mike Williams.
I honestly, I think he's the better fan. I think Keenan Allen is the better season-long fantasy option because he generally stays healthier than Mike Williams. Yeah. As unfortunate as it is, we haven't seen Mike Williams have the ability to go through a whole season without injury. Yeah. Hopefully, this is the first year because it would be nice to see, especially a player of his caliber.
Yes.
I'm rooting for him to actually finish it out and finally have a great season without the injuries. But they still do linger. That is a component of all this after all.
Yeah.
So I think Keenan is the safer fantasy option long term. But per game, I do prefer Mike Williams.
Yeah.
As long as he's staying healthy, I do prefer him. He has the higher touchdown upside, and on top of that, he's getting pretty much equal targets and yards as Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I would say Mike Williams is the 1A in terms of fantasy. You brought up a good point of Keenan Allen drawing better coverages, so he might still be the 1A in the Chargers offense.
Exactly, yeah. I wanna make sure I'm giving the proper respect to the players, and I do think that Keenan Allen is the 1A in terms of real life football. He's drawing tougher coverages and still putting up the numbers he is, Keenan Allen is amazing, and he is the better receiver of the two overall. But for fantasy purposes, Mike Williams definitely looks like the 1A for this year.
But both of them fire him up.
Yeah.
Eckler, fire him up. Herbert, fire him up. Bryan Edwards is a guy that's gotten, some speculation because he's had some good games, but genuinely, you don't go chasing the overtime touchdown from Bryan Edwards.
Yeah. My problem with Edwards is that he's been in 2 overtime games out of 3 weeks, and yet he's still gotten about 10 points a game. For me to actually consider picking up Bryan Edwards, I need to see 10 points in regulation, not 10 points with overtime. Realistically, you would imagine that the Raiders are not playing 5 quarters in 2/3 of their season games. We'll see. That would be pretty bizarre.
That would be pretty crazy, man. That would be a roller coaster season for sure. Chargers are 3-point favorites. Over under is 51.5. So a bit of a shootout expected there. But
and last thing in this game, the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Definitely firing up Justin Herbert against this Raiders team. Definitely nothing scary there for me.
Yeah.
And Carr, a little more convoluted. Like Chargers are very good against quarterbacks. But the thing is that, like, Carr has been riding such a hot streak, like, AFC Offensive Player of the Month, too, this month. Like, I think you plug in Carr unless you have, like, an elite QB or, like, a really good QB with a better matchup or something. Like, for example, I have Tannehill and Carr. I'm going with Carr over Tannehill.
Yeah, I would rank Carr ahead of Tannehill, too, like we discussed before. With the Jets. Potential letdown spot for the Chargers just because of the fact that they was such a big win over the Chiefs, and sometimes you see a letdown game there.
Yeah.
But the Chargers are really good. This is a big test, though, for Las Vegas in terms of real life football. But this is a fantasy football show, and with that, I think we are all set for Week 4. Enjoy the games. Hopefully all of you come out on top, and we will see you here to preview Week 5 and recap Week 4. Signing off, this is Kieran.
Ronan, and let me just leave you with this pivotal advice. Don't start fullbacks in fantasy football.
Can't be doing that. Hopefully you
just can't.
Hopefully, hopefully all of you run up the score this weekend. I know we will. Peace out.